So we are talking about shotgun sequencing, right? So in the previous lecture, we had talked about what shotgun sequencing does mean, what are the uh, steps in that, right? But let's take a rapid look through that. Why we are studying about mm, shotgun sequencing, and did we have any other method? What was the difference between amplicon based sequencing, that is PCR amplification? So you have a specific region that is selected, so marker genes are there. Based on that we do sequencing, based on that we do identification, based on that we do phylogenetic analysis and group the organism in respective phyla, taxa, genus, species, like that, right? So the importance of method where shotgun sequencing, gene sequencing comes in is whole genome you want to find out, because there are limitations when we talk about uh, amplicon based sequencing, because many a times amplicon based sequencing, the limitations of PCR are there. uh, Formation of chimeras are there, formation of error based fragment generation sometimes may be there, that may lead to errors. Of course it is not the only problem. The major problem is you are talking about only a selected region, only the marker gene, and that is used to identify the organism, its position in the microbiome and in the within the community or any natural ecosystem. So it has limited applications. You should talk about the entire genome. You should be able to read it, know its functionality, and then probably you will be able to position an organism in a proper taxonomical place. All right. Not only that, you will get to know its fundamental role, metabolic role in a given ecosystem. That's why metagenomics uses shotgun sequencing approach, which is fast, rapid, efficient, and you are going to have a complete analysis. It is not any particular sequence, but it is the whole genome, right? So when I say marker gene, the best known example for identification of bacterial species, that is we go with 16S rRNA sequencing, and the entire gene also is not sequenced. Certain conserved regions within that are sequenced, or ITS regions in 18S rRNA sequencing of fungi, for example, they are scanned only. And based on the comparison of that, we talk about whether there is any deviation, whether the organism having 99% similarity or 95% similarity, so on and so forth. So to start with, only we are starting with a limited range of information. So based on that we are trying to find out the position of the organism in the entire system. So it has its own limitations, so better is to sequence the entire genome and then analyze it. That is where comes shotgun sequencing. Now when it is shotgun sequencing of bacteria, the purpose is to identify them, right? Then many a times we have environmental ecosystems where the environments are really not very uh, clearly studied, or it is not really possible to study any environment to its 100% of its performance, because so many biological activities are occurring, that what interreactions, interconnectivity, then kind of interactions between organisms at every taxa level, then every what we say organizational level is occurring, we don't know. So we are not really able to mimic that in the laboratory, and are not able to cultivate major chunk, hardly 1% of microbes we are able to cultivate, and we talk them as, or we call them as, unculturable bacteria. So when it comes to study of unculturable bacteria, shotgun sequencing is done, from which you can find out the entire genomic sequence, what kind of genes are present, what are the specific marker genes, if they can be detected, the presence of the marker genes within that genome under study, all that can be done, right? Diversity of course can be analyzed based on studies which are going to generate a lot of data, and you can uh, uh, study about bacterial diversity. Abundance of a particular species in a given environment or in a given ecosystem can be studied, and profiling microbial genes. So that is going to help researchers to identify and profile the genes present in a sample. So these are the different points why we are why do we study the shotgun sequencing method, which is nothing but the NGS system, next generation sequencing, what we say. So shotgun is that, right? In the previous lecture, we have talked about the theory of it, right? If you remember. Now, I was talking about the comparison of 16S rRNA sequencing or amplicon-based sequencing or marker gene-based sequencing against shotgun sequencing. Here is a research paper that I'm trying to share with you, the abstract of that, which says comparison between 16S rRNA and shotgun sequencing data for taxonomic characterization of gut microbiota, right? So when you say gut microbiota, diversity is immense, and all may not be able to may not be cultivable under laboratory conditions. So they had done isolations of DNA from those bacteria which are there in the gut, and then the DNA was extracted. It was analyzed for 16S RNA region, and then the information was collected. Similarly, they had done sequencing by shotgun sequencing, and data was collected. What is the outcome? What is the difference? Actually, microbial system is same. It is gut microbiota. So whatever bacteria are there, they will be represented by 16S rRNA sequencing if you do, and same should be represented when you are doing shotgun sequencing. But this is not the story. The comparative analysis showed that based on 78 chicken gut metagenomes, the shotgun sequencing that was done, it could recover about uh, many many more bacteria than that was recovered or studied with the help of 16S sequencing. Sufficient number of reads were available, and for taxonomic profiling, more than 5 lakh reads were available. So most of the bacterial genera were identified by shotgun sequencing, but not by 16S rRNA sequencing. On an average, 16S rRNA recovered less than 31% of the genera and less than 50% of the phyla what could be obtained by shotgun sequencing. म्हणजे if you are talking about the number of bacteria reported by shotgun sequencing are 100, then 16S could give only about 31% of those genera, and when it comes to phyla, it is just 50% of the phyla. Microbiome, right? Microbiota, it includes the data. Now this data is restricted to bacteria only. So you see what is the efficiency of 16S and what is the efficiency of shotgun sequencing. Whatever shotgun sequencing can perform, out of that only 31% can be attained when you are going with 16S rRNA sequencing. So 16S rRNA sequencing is a good tool, but it has got limitations, and that's why shotgun sequencing is suggested. Now let's see the methodology for it. As you can see here, this is the sample source. It can be soil, it can be water, it can be a organism, it can be a host and bacteria relationship. So host tissue can be the there, anything it can be. From that you are going to extract DNA. Then the DNA is fragmented, right? You are seeing these are the small fragments which are generated. Then to these fragments, if you see, one is blue color, one is black color, another is pink color, and these are same here present, right? But one thing is common, that on either side you have the same pink colored regions. What are those? Those are the adapters. So once you fragment the DNA, adapters are added, adapter ligation is done, and you prepare the library. All right. Now, after this is one way. Second thing is, either you are going to extract this, you are going to cut it with the restriction enzymes and put those fragments in the vector, like maybe FASH13 or maybe YAC, maybe BAC, bacterial artificial chromosome, right? Yeast artificial chromosome, YAC, YAC, or maybe BAC, BAC, or maybe in certain plasmids, and then those clones are then preserve as libraries. So there are two ways. In previous lecture, we have talked the shotgun sequencing by cloning method and without cloning. So here I'm talking about without cloning. You have got the fragments. The fragments are joined with the adapters. So ligation with the adapter is going to give you recognizable ends for each fragment, and then you are going to generate the library this way, and then you are going to do the shotgun sequencing. So once sequencing is done, sequence analysis is a big thing, right? Why, I'll come to the point. But then point is you have to analyze the sequences, for which you are going to take help of computerized systems. Bioinformatics is the science that deals with it, and then further you are going to go with taxonomic analysis. So DNA सीक्वेंस किया, सीक्वेंसिंग के बाद ब्लास्ट करना होगा, you have to match with the existing database, and then you are going to find out its taxonomic positioning, and finally functional analysis, gene predictions. So what kind of gene is doing which function, or a specific function, like in the previous lecture I had said about rhizosphere nitrogen fixing bacteria have nitrogenous enzyme gene. So is the marker gene specifically. You are looking for an presence of that gene in a given sample. So you want to find out what different types of bacteria are there in that rhizosphere soil and are contributing to nitrogen fixation. That kind of study, if you are doing, is one example I'm saying. But yes, like that, you can do the functional analysis for gene so that prediction studies can be done. So this is a overall summary for how this shotgun sequencing is going to work and how it is important in metagenomic studies, right? So to say, here is the genomic DNA, you have fragmented it, right? Then to that you have added the adapters, then DNA sequencing is done, and such small stretches of sequences. Of course, यहाँ पे 10 bases ही you are seeing, but it is not as small as 1 or 5 or 10 bases. Short stretches are produced. Of course, there are comparison between very long size fragments, short fragments, 100 base pair fragments, 1000 base pair fragments. That kind of data is also available. Ki what should be the size of the fragment that would give you a good analysis? Very surely, when you are going to cut the DNA into small fragments, how many fragments will get generated? Can you imagine? And all are to be arranged, overlapping regions are to be found, contic is to be prepared. So this is very tedious process. It is something like you have a 300 pages book, you take one copy of that book, make a xerox of it. The xerox you are going to turn into pieces and then mix it, and then take one sheet from that and start arranging the sentences from first page of the book. फर्स्ट लाइन पे कौन सा जाएगा चिट, फिर उसके बाद का नेक्स्ट वर्ड यू हैव टू चूज फ्रॉम दैट मिक्स. It is it isn't it very very tricky thing and very hard to achieve, right? Same you are going to do here. The entire genome is cut into pieces. The pieces, the fragments are together. You have to sequence them, you have to arrange them in a way that it will give you a complete readable sequence from one end to another end of the genome. It's really a huge task, but is made possible with the help of computerized systems, right? So analysis of DNA sequence reads, you are going to get the sequence reads are there, and then these are the fragments which you are going to find where are the overlapping regions and how they may be present in the original DNA that is analyzed, and you are going to assemble the DNA sequence. All right. Now, when it is to library preparation, I think you know how are the libraries prepared, but you can take a photograph of it, right? Because you know how is DNA cut. There are two ways, either enzyme based, like you do it for cloning, or maybe by shear uh, agitation you can break the DNA into fragments. So more the number of fragments, uh, you are going to have smaller the size. And DNA when fragmented into smaller size fragments, such that you should get overlapping fragments are there. Unless overlapping fragments are generated, you cannot be successful in assembling the entire sequence. So you have to shear the DNA into small fragments, and the fragments are to be such that they have overlapping ends. So more the number of overlapping fragments, more precise assembling can be done. Now, of course, if required, you can enrich the uh, enrichment step can be done. So amplification of those fragments can be done, and the fragments that are enriched, the desired number of fragments are amplified. Matlab you are going to do PCR for those. And for PCR, you are going to use a random or known hexamer primers. They are annealed to it, and amplification is done. And then you are going to have the multiple copies produced. Now, after that, you are going to go for massive parallel sequencing. MPS, we have learned in previous few lectures, Illumina and Nanopore and all that we had talked about, right? Now, that will be helpful for sequencing so many fractions together, so many copies of the same of the same sequence fragment. एक fragment है त्याच्या multiple copies आहेत. So bead based system, if you remember, right, we had talked about. So uh, maybe the chip based microchip based sequencing methods, Illumina method, nanopore method, so many we have talked about. So there also you have what, single fragment or single sequence, amplified copies of that, and then many such fragments at a time, or many such genomes at a time can be sequenced when you talk about NGS systems. So massive parallel fashion, that is what is I mean to say about. It is a common word that is used massively and parallel at the same time, and massive multiple numbers. So you are going to anchor the sequence on the bead, and then it is taken for amplification of PCR, and then ESR, you remember, emulsion based PCR, emulsion PCR we had talked about, right? So multiple copies will get produced, and then you go for massive parallel sequencing. Now, of course, when you are talking about the fragment size is very important, because you have to have the number of fragments which are not going to be wrongly or mis amplified. Maybe there is a single base alteration that would also will lead to a havoc. Identification may not be precise. So you should have the long read lengths, but long read rates will give you higher error rate, low sequencing depth, and high cost. But as against that, if you go with short read length, provides considerably more valuable results at low cost. So short reads, so how much short? So generally it is seen that a particular base, maybe A, T, G, C, whatever it may be, should appear at least 10 to 15 times in that fragment. So many of, I mean, it is not that all uh, A are, all 15 A are appearing one after the other. Interspaced, you are going to have T, G, C, etc. Right? So the fragment length is chosen such that there are at least 10 to 15 repeats of a single base. That is a generalized statement, but yes, it is functionally working. So long read sequencing is ideally applicable to investigate some and known microbes from the sample. But when you are going with unculturable unknown microbes, preferred are short read length fragments. And the library is constructed, and then you are going to go for sequencing. Right. Here are the summary steps for that. You have to find out who is there and what is their position in the taxonomy, what are they doing, what are their functions, right? So DNA extraction is done. Here, DNA extraction is not only to obtain a higher yield, but you have to have the DNA from every possible microbe which is present in the given sample. You don't want multiple copies of a DNA of the bacteria which is more in number in a given sample. That you want, but whichever is the rarest species, its DNA also has to be tagged, because you have to talk about the total diversity, microbial diversity, or say bacterial diversity of a given sample. So it's not that about isolating huge amount of or high yield of DNA, but it is all about isolating the DNA from every possible microbe present in the sample. Now, bead beating and magnetic bead based extraction methods are commonly used. Chemical methods, you have done DNA extraction. They are good, efficient, but they are not really entertained when it comes to extraction of DNA from natural samples. What is used then? Magnetic bead based extraction methods are effective for metagenomic DNA isolation. So that is the first step. When it comes to fragmenting DNA, the DNA is fragmenting into small size fragments, but they are, as I said earlier, they are overlapping fragments, they are to be generated. So overlapping fragments will help assembling. So more the number of overlapping fragments, more precise the assembling process is. So then you are going to prepare the library. Maybe before for preparing library, you will have to enrich the fragments, which is done by PCR. Then you have to look for sequencing and find out the entire sequence, right? Now here the assembly read depth, this is the word that is used. Assembly read depth should be at least 15x. That means each nucleotide to be present or sequenced at least 15 times, right? So higher the read depth, higher is the accuracy and precision. Now, what is the last step? Bioinformatics is the is analysis is to be done. So many analysis tools are there available for um, uh, finding out the taxonomical position of microbial population. So that is done. Now while doing so, you can analyze this taxonomic position of the isolate or the bacteria present or isolated DNA by informative marker gene, that is amplicon based. Second, grouping sequences into defined taxonomic groups, that is binding, we had talked in the previous lecture. And third is assembling sequences into distinct genomes. So all these three are the major steps. Not necessarily they are to be done one after the other. Maybe initially you do binding and then you go on analyzing taxonomic positions. So it all depends how you, what kind of data you need and what is the number of bacteria diversity in a given sample. So initially you might have to group them and then go for analysis, or maybe you are using a marker gene, tapping the presence of that marker gene in the entire sequence of all bacterial sequence DNA sequences present, and those which are having it are grouped separately and those which are missing it are grouped separately. So binding will be done in the step 2. Ulta also is possible, that you group them first depending on some on the basis of some factor, and then you go for analyzing the presence of the marker gene. Either way it can be done. Now here are applications of shotgun sequence which is used in metagenomics. Human microbiome analysis, right? NGS is going to be the system which is used for human microbiome, like example of previous example, the research paper that we talked about, which says gut microbiota of chickens. So here gut microbiota of human, right? That can be very well studied using this. Genomic surveillance can be done. So pathogen, for example, at a molecular level studies you can do using this technique, and you can get an insight about what kind of behavior that pathogen is showing, how far or how fast it is evolving, what kind of substrains are there, how it is spreading across geographically. All these studies can be done with shotgun metagenomic sequencing. Same for viruses also, you can apply it. Environmental metagenomic studies also can be done by analyzing the DNA within the environmental sample. Again, the antimicrobial resistance surveillance can be done using this technique. So these are the four major applications I have cast here. But more than that, you have many more examples. Individually, you can talk about it. Now here, some more things, like shotgun metagenomics is used by infectious disease researchers to identify new pathogens, track transmission, detect genomic mutations, and so on. Right? So these are the applications of shotgun sequencing method. Similarly, when you are talking about large number of sequences, they are present from rare members, because commonly, just say if you are going for microbes which are associated with water contamination, E. coli is going to be there in large numbers, right? But there are certain rare species, so you have to find out what rare species also are part of that community. So at that time, when you have a large number of sequences and from rare members of a community or rare alleles of those sequences, then there is a challenge. And there you have to go for deep sequencing methods. So they are referred to as targeted NGS. It is not in the syllabus, but just the higher part of sequencing advancements or tools. I just wanted to mention the word that targeted NGS, next generation sequence, that you are going to do, where amplicon sequencing is followed by hybridization capture. These are the two terms which are additional, and they are of use when there are large number of sequences and the sequences are coming from rare members about whom you do not have any prior information. They are not known, they are totally new. That time hybridization experiments, DNA hybridization, RNA-DNA hybridization, you are aware of that. They can be done to find out their gene sequences, right? And then positioning under taxonomy can be done. So these are some of the applications, you can say, of metagenomic DNA sequencing. So amplicon based and shotgun based, okay, it's we have talked about it. There is something which I wanted to share with you is about mm, human genome, right? So when we talk about human genome project, we are aware that how many what is the what is the size of human genome? It is, we know that human genome has about 3.2 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. It is estimated one, right? Now, when I say estimated, what kind of question mark arises on your on your mind? अरे वो estimated म्हणजे काय? Actual counted nahi hai ka? Is it not really known? See, the thing is, when you talk about sequencing, you are talking about fragmentation of DNA, right? So for that, you should have initially the linear DNA. So when I think about human genome or any higher organism genome, very first that comes on my mind is, what about heterochromatin, which is very tightly packed? You have to dislodge those octamers of histones, right? That is one thing. Okay, that can be done with the help of enzymes. What about the sequences, which are short repetitive sequences, which are SNPs, right? So such things are there which are going to be of concern, and shall we consider them while talking about the diversity? If they are repetitive sequences, if they are never expressed, right, or they are SNPs, so what about those, right? So that's why the concern is euchromatin and heterochromatin. The concern is majority of the base pairs are from euchromatin areas when we talk about 3.2 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs. So most of the DNA there in the euchromatin is relaxed and easy to access. But what about the remaining sequences, which are heterochromatin regions? Right? That was my point to talk about. But yes, let's take an example of human genome. The Human Genome Project, it was aimed to sequence the entire genome by 2005. It had begun in the year 1990, and the cost that was initially projected was about $1.5 billion, right? And probably uh, $10 per sequence base would be the calculated price. म्हणजे पूर्ण एक्सपेरिमेंटची कॉस्ट आणि मग पर बेस कॉस्ट एस्टिमेट केली तर $10 एक बेस सिक्वेन्स आपल्याला काढून मिळेल असं होतं. But simultaneously, Craig Venter of Celera Genomics Company, he completed the sequencing of the human genome several years before the targeted time, right? And 2005ला तो झाला, पण त्याच्या आधीच यांनी 2001 मध्येच पूर्ण केलेलं होतं. And the cost was much, much less. It was just $2 lakh, much less than $1.5 billion, right? So results were published in February 2001. The difference between the sequencing done by the official project and Venture's approach was, official project was cloned human DNA into YAC, that is yeast artificial chromosome. Small, small size fragments, they were cloned, right? YAC and BAC, bacterial artificial chromosome. In TY, you have learned about it. So they are the vectors. to accommodate big size DNA fragments. Generally, when you are going for genome sequencing studies, you don't need plasmids like your PBR322 because it is very, the size that it can accommodate is very small, right? So you have to incorporate very big fragments of DNA. So that time these artificial DNA fragments are used, and you are going to use sorry, these yeast and bacterial artificial chromosomes are used, and then mapped the genes to their locations on the chromosome. But Ventures Group had done directly the shotgun sequencing. That's why it was done very fast and without use of yak and back clones. So that is what is without cloning. Sequencing, shotgun sequencing without cloning was done by them. And so it was really very rapid. And this is a story I'm talking 2001. Now we are in 2025. Lot many advances are made, and now hundreds, nahi, thousands of different genomes are parallelly sequenced by Illumina and nanopore technology. We have learnt about it in details. Right. So these were the few highlights of shotgun sequencing. I'll start with my previous slides also, what we talked about in the previous lecture, so that you get the entire summary of shotgun sequence. Here in the first we had discussed the term contig, then what is the definition for shotgun sequencing and its history. Then we had talked about two different methods of shotgun. One is whole genome shotgun, another is hierarchical shotgun. Hierarchical matlab hi the method by clones, right? So you are going to clone by clone sequencing is hierarchical sequencing. Then the point was why shotgun sequencing and why not 16S rRNA sequencing. So taxonomically and phylogenetically informative marker if you can use, and like 16S RNA, then why to go for shotgun sequencing. That is what we had talked. Then we had talked about, is it possible to correlate the bacteria present in such diverse environment and you are comparing them? Is it possible by 16S rRNA? That was the question. So in such cases, you might have to go for entire genome sequencing, and that's why shotgun sequencing method is used. Here are the highlights for shotgun sequencing, and I think this should be the end of the story from my side.